makers have focused on.
Right. Absolutely. So classrooms need to be revamped, and that would be the first. That should be the first step. Thank you, Santosh sir. I'll be coming back to you. Now, I would request Sarika ma'am, if I may present this one to you.
Yes, yes, surely.
Ma'am, this question has been asked by Dr. Nidhi Sharma. Nidhi ji is a PGT biology with the Doon World School, Dehradun. The question says, why spiritual education is not mandatory in schools? So, if we can have your comments about spiritual education in schools.
Actually, you see, what has happened is that somehow we have lost the to learn the difference between spiritualism and religion. You know? So religion and spiritualism, they are taken on the same platform, whereas which is entirely wrong. See, spiritualism is something which arises from yourself. It is spirit related, and it is the kindring of that spirit, actually. So how that can be taught in the schools is by the individual teacher. She or he has to be spiritual in nature, passionate about his her own profession, and bring that truth element of truth into whatever I teach to my children, and give them the true picture. So therefore, you will be teaching spiritualism to the children. But if you think that this is a subject which can be taught to the children on pen and paper, I don't agree. And to break that fine line of difference, we are like sitting on the fence. We either jump to the religion, or we are jump to the spiritualism, and somewhere when we are floundered, we mix both of them, and then we create a lot of confusion. So my answer to Dr. Nitish, Anna? So he, I would just like to advise you that you can teach spiritualism at your own end by portraying yourself as being a spiritualistic person who believes that you are a spirit, a kindred spirit, who can disseminate so much to the child that you don't need any boundaries of any curriculum.
Right. Absolutely. So the question was asked by Dr. Nidhi,
Okay.
Nidhi Sharma ji.
Sorry. So I hope,
right.
Dr. Nidhi,
Yes,
I
absolutely,
somehow am able to answer to your question.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be coming back to you. I would request Arati ma'am, if I may present this one to you.
Sure.
This question has come from Ms. Reena Negi ji. Reena ji is a teacher with Doon World School, Dehradun. The question says, use of home. This NEP has emphasized upon the use of mother tongue and regional languages till class 5th. So, are we going to start teaching basics of English in class 6? Don't we think that this would create a lot of challenge for those students in coming time?
This is a really good question, actually, because, as research and theory, research says, right, language development is peak in the early years. So we must have whatever languages we want to teach, be it English or be it the mother tongue. It should be started right from the beginning, early childhood, I would say actually 0 to 6 years for that matter. So my other comment about mother tongue is, we have such a migrant population in this country, right? So how would you really define mother tongue in any state, right? I could be living in, I could be from UP, right? But I could be living in Karnataka. So how are you defining mother tongue? Right? How do you define that? And there could be many other children in my class living in Karnataka, but from, 15 states. So that is my comment and my concern about, mother tongue and languages in general. I'm a big proponent of languages and teaching them from the ages 0 to 6, but enforcing it at, again, defining, first of all, what is mother tongue, and then just ensuring we teach as many languages as we can.
Right. Absolutely.
I might add, like that too. So view on that. I don't know if I've even answered the question, but it's at least a point of view.
You have shared your perspective, and we all understand that to some extent. This is going to be a challenge. But a lot of educators, this has been a very regular question to our sessions, and a lot of educators have said, like, how many schools would face that problem? In India, most of the schools have the same kind of, the students who are coming from the similar kind of background. So, and also many educators, many experts have also shared that, student till their, during their early years, they can learn, languages, up to 5 languages, before they turn up 10 or 8. So there are different perspectives on that, but certainly it is going to create a lot of challenge. Schools like KVs are going to face challenges because they have parents from different background and students from diverse background. So let's see how it goes. So thank you, Arati ma'am. I'll be coming back to you now. I would request Mr. Nitin Nagpal. Nitinji, if I may present this one to you. Nitinji, am I audible? Okay, so I'll request Jitin, Mr. Jitin Chako. Jitin, you belong to the world of art. This has been again a very regular question. How do you visualize the evolution of art, post NEP implementation? Jitin, art education.
So, see, art education is very, as we see, like right now, the development of art education has really developed a lot over the period of years. Because I myself remember that when I was schooling, when I was a child, when I was doing my school, art was not given that importance or that prominent enough at that point of time. But right now, when we see right now in the schools, even it is given that much important. And even see, in arts, it is not completely different from the logistic learning which we learn with regards to math or English or science, because in arts also all these are included. So this one thing which I have seen, like, once I just entered into a school of my, of one of my schools when I used to teach, and in the art room. So the teacher there was just teaching them how to make a cylinder, or there was an object which was kept, and it was in a cylindrical shape and all different objects. So while teaching that also, there was math which was been included in that. This is what this, the right angle triangle, the hemisphere and everything. So he just created by drawing that math diagrams, and at the end the last product was an art which was kept there. And also when it comes to music also have math included. There is additions into it, there is multiplications into it while playing. And when we are doing music also, there is correlation between your hand, your mind coordination and everything. There is science also which is there, which is implemented in music as well with regards to motion and everything. So when we include or when we integrate music or art into learning, it is much more easier, and it is a fun element to for all the students to learn, because it is not only just like robotic or monotonous which you're teaching, but as Miss Sagarika said, it is not monotonous. Like, as in her teaching career as well, she's implemented things of like arts with the science or with other education, which gives a more impact. And also the students, also the mind of the students also reflects into a manner, okay, fine, they're doing something new, they're doing something innovative, and they're also learning things through that. So definitely art, when you integrate art into music or into art, any art into education, would definitely develop the development of the child and the brain, and also it would give a good impact towards the education, and we can see a better and a developed education system in the coming years.
Thank you, Jitin, for that. And now we come to the end of the session. But before we close the session, I would request our key speakers if we can have your concluding remarks. Also, we have established one very interesting practice, that while sharing your concluding remarks, if you can also suggest an idea or some thought which you would like to implement at any cost, if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of a country, let's say for a one day. So what would be your priority? What you would like to implement during that one day of ministership. So, I'll come to you randomly so that you can fix your answers. I would request Jitin, if we can begin with you, if we can have your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of our country for one day?
Okay, so I would start with what I would do as a Ministry of Education if I would. So I would. So for me, it is like, see, education is open. You are not just learning through book. So it is, education is open to all, and your mind, you definitely learn some of the other things by looking at some. So what right now it is like, it is a rote learning which is happening right now. You just have to learn this is what it is, and this, we are just only concentrated towards one particular thing. So if I become a minister, I would definitely take that off. It would be more kind of a logistic and more kind of hands-on learning, more kind of project based, so that the child is using his or her own brain. There is nothing wrong. So definitely, if you learn something, you're learning. If there is any mistake, there is any wrong, that is also a learning step. Okay, fine, this is what, because even if you see the scientists, they do a lot of things, there are a lot of failures, but that is just a stepping stone for them to learn. Okay, fine, this is what I should not do and I should go ahead. But what will happen? No, you have to do this, you have to do that, or you only have to focus on this thing. The child will not develop in that sense. His mind will not be opened up in that manner to to understand a lot of things, develop a lot of things, grasp a lot of things. It will not help him to grow mentally, or develop himself as a human being. So I would be like, I would take off the rote learning method, but would look towards more of rational or practical learning, and develop the mind of a child. And here is my concluding statement, that I think one of the important question is, why is this art forms are not integrated with mainstream as a part of school? We are all aware the merits of art. It is possibly the lack of an organization structure program, and a lack of an instructional institutionalized approach to bring in consistency and continuity in learning at a conceptual and a performance level. FSM has become a partner who can work with schools and enabling this for students, and offer creative programs across performing arts to build strong program across age group. FSM Buddy has opened up this opportunity for students, especially during this lockdown. We aspire to make this most accessible to our students across the country, and gain exposure to the varied programs like dance, foreign language, speech and drama, life skills, and course music, and of course music available on this platform. We have testimonials of all kinds of adults who are likely to really look forward to their music sessions with us, and have benefited tremendously, especially in these tough times. Here is I would like to show a small video in conclusion.
I would request Jitin, it's getting very long. If you can conclude, right?
Yes, so I am already done with it. I just have a small video which I would like to show it up with regards to my conclusion. Okay. I hope my screen is visible to you.
Not. Yes. Thank you, Jitin. Thank you, Jitin, for your remarks. Thank you for that. Now I would request Santosh sir. Santosh sir, if I may ask you for your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education, for a day, Santosh sir.
Thank you, sir, for having made me feel that way. So
you deserve that. Okay. You all deserve that. You all deserve that.
So let me consider myself the Education Minister of India for the moment. Okay. See, if I were the education minister of the country, I would do the same as our present minister is doing. He's doing a great job. We should actually admit the fact that he is actually doing a great job. In confidence, I would try to motivate even the private sector to come and play a vital role in this transition time. I mean, this transition, when we enter into a different phase, and when there is a transition period, hurdles are inevitable, but there should be a collective team effort, and I hope that that team effort will be there, and we'll all together, put those hurdles away and enter into a new phase of teaching and learning. And we must all welcome this new phase. Actually, it's a kind of revolution that we are seeing, right in front of our eyes. It was way back in 1986 when that the education policy was there, Kothari Commission and all. But now it's all a new experience. We are actually living in a digital age, and this transition from one phase to the other one should be digitally felt. When I say digitally, it is not actually, it should not be taken literally. I'm not talking of computers and all. It should be very vivid, very smooth, and I know that we all are going to do it together, and we are going to bring about a revolution in the field of education. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. You shared, the agenda for the full 5-year term, sir. So thank you, Santosh sir. But we all agree with that. Your remarks and your ideas, that is certainly needed, and more. In fact, a lot of educators have also shared that one area where this policy lacks, it is not giving more autonomy to private educators, private institutions. In fact, that regulation is not talked about. That need to be talked about and need to be reduced. So thank you, Santosh sir, for joining and sharing your remark. Now I would request Sarika ma'am. Sarika ma'am, your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education?
Thank you. My concluding remark is that we are talking of experiential learning. And I believe that in the experiential part of learning, the parent, the teacher, and the student are equally involved. And here, we are only doing this experimentation with the children. The teacher and the parent are left out. So as a Minister of Education for one day, I would really like to sit with my cabinet of ministers and talk to them that how in every day of the life of the parent and the teacher, we are going to put them through the process of experiential learning. Because unless and until what the child learns, the system through which the child goes in the school, if it is not replicated at home or by the teacher himself or herself, he or she is in that mode, this whole emphasis of experiential learning, which leads to integration, which leads to multiple exits, entries, and so many other things, making education a joyful learning, bringing community into education, taking education back to the community. So I feel that somehow or the other, as a minister, these parents and the teachers should also undergo through that process of experiential learning once, and only then this NEP can be implemented in the true spirit. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We agree with you, ma'am. In fact, a lot of educators in the previous session have also maintained that the more involvement from parents is needed. In fact, a lot of educators also share that parents training needs to be done by schools, and without that proactive involvement of parents, we won't be able to achieve desired fruits. So thank you, Sarika ma'am, for sharing these powerful thoughts. Now I would request Rati ma'am if we can conclude the session with your concluding remark, and what would be your priority if you get a chance to become Minister of Education of our country. Rati ma'am.
Sure. So this is about how can we bring together our valuable resources that we already have. There's so many schools. I mean, just look at the educators here. We have so many. The NEP, or this is a parent engagement tool, or whatever it is, right? How do we really work together or exemplar ideas of here is how project-based learning is done, or here is how experiential learning is done successfully. So that's what I would, like to emphasize on, and how can we get that done? And, I will just say, our school here, Purkal Youth Development Society, it's purkal.org. We have done, through this lockdown, I will say, and I'm offering services of Purkal to anybody out there. Through lockdown, we have worked very hard with our teachers to define lesson plans, learning outcomes, measuring outcomes, and actually we're doing very unique end-of-year assessments as well for our students. We're not doing final exams in the traditional way. We're really doing it through projects and based on the learning outcomes, whether they were met or not met. So, really, how do we pool together these resources to then move it forward? So switching my hat to being a, Minister of Education for a day, I would actually roll up my sleeves and actually sit down and help formalize a digital strategy framework for schools. What is the framework, right? As I said earlier, every school is different. Every school's needs and resources are different, but you can easily create a framework that schools can use, like a blueprint or a template that schools can use to customize for themselves. So, and I think I could do that in a day and actually put it out. So that's my concluding remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Rati ma'am. If you can do it in a day, you certainly deserve to be, Minister of Education of this country. Thank you, Rati ma'am. And we really appreciate the kind of unique way of assessing your students that you are doing, and certainly many educators would like to take the benefit of your experience and expertise. So big thanks, Santosh sir, Sarika ma'am, Rati ma'am, Jitin Chaku, Nitin Nagpal, for joining and sharing your wisdom and perspective. I also thank all the participants for being with us through the entire session. Thank you all. We'll end the session here. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to you also.